I'm a little confused about uh, what appears to be a war on public education.
That's what it is.
There's legislation out here that talks about turning school boards into partisan posts, and at the same time, there's another bill talking about making it a volunteer position as opposed to a paid position. Um, I- what's the party got against public education?
It's vulnerable. Public schools are vulnerable, and they, we, the Florida House does not talk about public education. The Florida House talks about government schools, and the legislature has spent 20 years, 2 decades, weakening public schools and attacking the public school industry and fostering an alternative system, the charter school system, and public schools are weak. And so they're a target. That's the only thing I can figure.
Well, the other thing that this grows out of too, we can't ignore is the pandemic. We've gone through a couple of years now of mask policies in school that the governor has been opposed to generally, and this year we're seeing the House in its budget is promoting the idea of penalizing 12 counties, 12 school districts and
Mm-hmm.
counties of $200 million total from in state funds because these 12 counties enacted mask policies that differed from what the governor wanted. So, these rebellion counties now are being held accountable for not following the governor's executive order. That was, of course, challenged by parents. It was challenged by school districts. It went through courts. Florida did not really pass a law banning mandatory masks in school until the fall. Yet a lot of these actions that the school districts did back in springtime and into the early stages of the school year, they're now being punished for.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this frustration that parents were frustrated with the schools, but I think they were generally supportive of the way schools were able to carry on with different restrictions during the height of the pandemic. And there was a reason for the kind of policies that they enacted. But from DeSantis' point of view, again, that playing to that anti-mask, that wary of vaccination population that's out there, DeSantis has the bully pulpit, and he is coming down hard on these districts, and you're seeing it now manifested in the Florida House. So I think a lot of this other legislation, whether it be regulating race discussions in school or how sexual identity and gender is discussed in schools as well, is sort of an outgrowth of that clash that we have had over masks over the past 2 years. I think a lot of Republicans viewed school boards as being out of step with their people, out of step with their Republican voters, and I think that's what we're seeing as a backlash right now. And even it comes down into that point that you made, Doug, a moment ago about the partisan school board idea, the idea that school board members who run nonpartisan in Florida, that they should run as a Republican or a Democrat. I think that comes out of that too, because I think you saw some of these 12 counties that defied DeSantis on masks. Some of those are in counties that are Republican leaning, but somehow they had a school board that, defied the Republican governor. So I think now you're trying to get it where there's the view that if you're going to vote for a school board member, you're going to know if he's a Republican or a Democrat or not.
And I'd just like to add with on the education thing is that, COVID, I mean, the schools, they got caught up in the culture wars issue. I mean, the governor is opposed to, Joe Biden's COVID policies, and that all got tied up into that. But, nowhere in Florida is critical race theory being taught in public schools. And so, but it became a big issue, with the Woke Act. And, it's just, it's one of these distraction issues. And you could also argue that the same thing with the Don't Say Gay bill, what the House Republicans were saying that they were fighting against and what they were trying to prevent. Somehow, justification for that bill came down to apparently fear that first graders were being instructed on sexual intercourse, in comments that House members made after the vote. So it you know the the Florida legislature has spent more than 2 decades attacking the public school system, and it really got supercharged this year.